Everybody, the truck tour. Let's do this. Now, our latest arrival to the fleet is the Renault Master Mupe. Now, the reason we got this one is because, as you know, we're doing highway and rail work. Now, there isn't a huge amount of choice on the market when it comes to Mupes. You've only got a few providers, Versalift, CPL, Aldercote. There's not many providers, so your options are relatively limited to the type of vehicle you can get. We picked the Renault Master, and the reason we did this was, it was a twofold reason. The first one is at the back. Now, the first reason we did this is because it's a cutaway model. It saves space. The actual basket only protrudes less than half a metre. It's a really, really slim, it doesn't protrude a lot, which is what we wanted, because when we're working in central London, Piccadilly, Soho, really tight, narrow places where we've got to get access up high, trying to get a 5-ton Iveco with the boom right on the back of it, I mean, you're talking 8.5, 9 metres. Some of them are huge vans. So this is only 5.5 metres from front to back. It's short, but it's still got a good boom height. This boom here will go up to 14 meters, and it's got an 8-meter outreach. So it's still, as for the size of it, in comparison to the height that it can go to, it's actually a really good, those figures are really, really good for a vehicle of this size. And the second reason was mainly the options in the cab, which I'll show you now. The Renault Master came with a lot of options as standard, and it was things like air conditioning, which were a deal breaker. If you buy the Ford Transit from another Mupe supplier, the Ford Transit as stock doesn't have air conditioning, because for the power for the boom, they have to use the space where the aircon pump is for the PTO for the boom. So you can't have air conditioning. And there was just something about that. I struggled to justify the cost of spending, 70, 75 grand on a truck, and you can't even have air conditioning, basic, which should be in all vehicles now. And this came with climate control, cruise control, you've got suspension seats, a speed limiter. It comes with a lot of stuff as standard. So for me, that was another reason that just made it a bit of a deal breaker to get this one rather than have a Ford Transit. So while I'm here, I'll give you a quick walk around inside. Now, we've got cruise control on the steering wheel, which for me, cruise control was great, especially if we're doing long distance work in this, which we will be. It's one of those things, once you've had it, you wouldn't not have it. You've got air conditioning and climate control, we've got DAB stereo, and then up above we've then got the radio system, which you've seen that in the past. We use that's in all of the vans, and that connects to the handheld system which we've got. We haven't used it a lot yet, but I can see in a couple of months' time these are going to start being used quite heavily. So that was also, it was the layout of the dashboard. It allows to accommodate additional things like this, so which I personally thought was quite important. Over here you've got the front, back, left and right dash cams, which are backed up to a little SD card which goes inside. So you've got a 128 gigabyte SD card, and basically as soon as you turn on the ignition, you've got front, back, and then you've got the left and right cams under the door mirrors, and they just record all the time. I fitted that, so that was actually something I fitted afterwards, because I just wanted front, back, left and right cams recording all the time when this vehicle's moving, just because of the value of it. I just wanted to make sure that if anything happens out on the road, you can see everything. And actually having the back cam, which is at the top of the van at the very back, it's really good because you just get a nice big view of the road behind you, and sometimes it's nice to be able to see what's going on behind you. And then down here that's the control panel down here for the boom, so that does the beacons, the PTO. So whenever we pull up, as soon as we want to get started, you just hit the PTO button, that engages the PTO, and that provides power to the boom, and then you can deploy your jacks left and right. Jack controls, those are up here, so you can only operate those once you engage the PTO down here. So once the PTO is in, you can just control your jacks left and right. Then you've got the switch there for the rear lights. That just brings on the rear lights, the 2 LED strips, the 2 bars on the very back. We put those in after because I just thought that was a nice accessory to have, especially if you're working at night, when it's which we will be. We're going to be doing quite a lot of night work in this, and it's just nice to have a nice big bright work area where your boom is. So that's that. And then the other one is for the hot water hand wash unit in the back, which you haven't seen yet. I'll show you. And that just literally operates off the ignition. So as soon as you turn the ignition on, you can just switch on your hot water unit and it'll just keep the water warm all day. What else have we got in here? Tough book stand right in front of me. The other reason is because the Renault Master had the choice of a single seat. You know how in vans you get twin seats? I didn't want that because I wanted to be able to have the Tough Book here. So we ordered it with a single seat conversion, and that gave me the ability to then have this. Now the reason I did that is because in road and rail, what I've worked out is there is a phenomenal amount of paperwork. It's ridiculously, there's so much paperwork, RAMs, risk assessments, and all of these method statements and stuff. I need somewhere to be able to do it, or the boys do when we're out working. So the ability to be able to have your Tough Book, you can dock it, and as soon as you dock it, it just starts charging. So you've always got a charged laptop, and you've just got somewhere that you can operate your laptop from, and then you can just swivel it around. If you're working out on site, you can swivel it, move it. It's a really nice option to have. It's one of the best things I like about this van. And then down there is just the level for the boom, just so when you're leveling out your jacks, you can see how level you are. And then that's the pressure gauge for the air suspension on the back. And actually the other thing, sorry, before I forget, is the bucket cam on the back. That is a godsend. Trying to operate one of these vehicles without a bucket cam is really hard work. That was a wireless cam. Now we fitted that separately when we got the vehicle and we did it here. That comes from, I think I bought that online, it was like 150 quid, but it's brilliant because it's totally wireless. Because the one issue I had, in fact, I'll show you, come around now and I'll show you. This is the camera here, but the one problem is that you can't run any cabling to the boom because obviously the boom moves. So I couldn't have a wired camera because as soon as you come out the holder, you just snap the cable. So I had to have something that was completely wireless, and this was it. It's just literally a wireless, it's just a battery pack with a little solar panel in it, and then you've just got the camera there. And as soon as you press the button on the dashboard, it just brings on the display for a minute, I think it is. But it's perfect because you see everything on the back of the boom. You can park right up close to stuff. Camera guy took a tumble then. You can park right up close to stuff, and people look at you and think, "Blimey, he's a good driver," and it's not. You've just got a camera in the dash. Actually, one of the other main reasons we got this was because you had the ability to upgrade it to 4 tons. So it comes as standard as a 3.5 ton van, like most small vans do. But you have the ability to upgrade it to 4 tons. And anybody who's got MUPs knows that when you're running fully laden, to be honest, most of them are running overweight. So it means I've just got that extra 1/2 ton payload, which, all right, I've got to update. I've got to get a driving license that allows me to do that. But on the whole, it gives you the flexibility, which I think was really important for this. Anyway, inside. So that is how we've done it. Now, this was a difficult one, and we pondered in the office for many hours trying to work out the best way of kitting this out on the inside, because the problem is, if you look at companies like Clancy, Docra, Conway, Skanska, they just use their MUPs for one thing, and that's literally street lighting, like overhead lighting. That's all they use it for. They don't use it for anything else. And if you're doing it for that, it makes doing it very easy on the inside. You just have one rack with large holes to put your new heads in, job done. You don't really need anything else. Because we're using this for mixed use, it's not going to be used for just one purpose. It will just be used for commercial stuff. This isn't going to be touching anything domestic. It's just going to be commercial and industrial stuff. But because it's mixed works, we needed to try to come up with a solution that works for as best as we can for every option, which is why we've done the system the way we've done it. So first thing is a swing lift. We managed to get a day out working with another company, and they actually had it on a transit tipper. You know how you see them on council trucks? They have them on the transit tippers on the back of the checker plate on the front of the tipper. They were using one of those, and they were using it for the 300-meter drums of lighting cable, because trying to pick those up on your own is just a non-starter. So that's where these came in. It just swings out like so, and it just comes with a remote control, and you just literally drop it all the way down. You can just hook your crate, your drum of cable, whatever. I have got the clamp. There's a very nifty little clamp which is designed for drums of armour cable. So it clamps on with a little D hook, and you just hook it on, and you can just lift it up and just drop your cable in. You're only transporting it from the wholesaler to your job, or from the job out onto the ground. Yeah. It's a sort of thing you won't use it very often, but when you do use it, it pays for itself in that one thing, if that makes any sense. So the next thing was the vise. I think they're really worth having. They're the sort of thing you only use them once every sort of 6 months, or you don't use them often, but when you do use them, they're really worth their money. And we just put it on a swivel base just so you can adjust it if you've got lengths of strut or something you want to cut. Just a really good bit of kit to have. They are invaluable in my opinion. So one of them. So the interior. Now we've just tried to get a gauge of what we think we were going to be doing with it. So we've gone for what I think was the best solution. Cable spooler up here, so for large drums of cable and stuff. Thermal imaging camera, because again this is going to be doing survey work. This is going to be doing a lot of, it's just reports, survey work, stuff like that. So thermal imaging we thought was important. 18-volt grinder, the new bi-turbo one from Bosch. 12-volt twin sets, inspection camera, and an SDS. I thought those were, well, you saw in the last video, I thought those were the mainstay tools we're going to need in here. These tubs at the moment are empty. These will be filled with the streetlight cutouts. We've got those on order, they just haven't turned up yet. So we've got streetlight cutouts, 100 amp fuses, 80s, 60s, just a whole load of the BS88 fuses. So those will be going in here, cutouts of fuses are going in here. And again, these are going to be the same as in the Renault Trafics we've got, Sortimo cases, and just a selection of screws, wall plugs, pigtails, all that sort of stuff. Down there is the taper lights for cones, and again, these are the cones, so the taper lights just sit on top of the cones as you've seen. These are the smaller cones just for 30-mile-an-hour areas, and it's just literally just a strap which holds it in. It's quite a neat little system actually. It just means your cones don't fly about in the back of the van. You'll notice that we're not carrying the signage in here, and that was one of the reasons we wanted to get the unit, because we knew we were getting into this line of work and we need space to store all of this sort of stuff. So we don't carry all the signage every day. We just, because this van will be used for work that we know is booked in, and it just means that we can keep all of that there, and on the days we know we're going to be going out on highways, or we're going to be going out to car parks, anywhere where we know we're going to be using this, we can load the van up that day, so we're not constantly carrying stuff. But just as a minimum, we always carry those, because you never know, you might get caught short on a job and you just need to throw some cones out. So we've got those. Down here we've got the pull-out drawers. So in here we've got the Sortimo Pro Click stuff, which I must say is bloody good. In fact, it's this stuff here. In fact, these are the pouches here. That's one of the Pro Click pouches. And that's the belt. You saw me use it a couple of weeks ago on the Mupe. That's the belt for it. Really, really good stuff. So that always stays in the Mupe. Then we've got 18-volt Bosch torch, batteries for the taper lights. They do munch batteries quick. That's what I have found with those taper lights. Yeah, it takes 2 of these to go into one of these taper lights, and it does munch through them pretty quick. They say it lasts like 100 hours. It bloody doesn't. I mean, I guess it does, but these are Varta batteries. They're pretty good, but we keep these as spares on the van. Nothing worse than when batteries run out. Cat 5 termination stuff we've got. The reason we've got that is because that goes with the CCTV inspection kit that I've got. You saw us using it down in the charity a couple of weeks ago. It's a couple of videos back. I'll leave a link to it up here. You saw us using that kit. The reason we've got that on the van is because most CCTV on commercial buildings and stuff is quite high up. They want to get a really good look, a good spread of everything that's going on below them. So that's the reason we've got that. We can just go straight up in the Mupe, disconnect the camera, plug straight into our CCTV tester. If we've got faulty RJ45 connectors or anything like that, that's why we carry that. We can just click, 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 put a new connector on or something, reconnect the camera, job done. So that's why we keep that on the van. Sortimo multi-pack, you've seen that in loads of content. I actually love these bags. Unfortunately, they've stopped producing them this month, I think. They've brought out a new model, I think. But yeah, that's the one that we use. And when we're not using it, it just clicks into the Sortimo rail. Again, it was one of the reasons why I like Sortimo stuff, because they've just thought about it. You've got all these indents in the rail, and it just means that whatever item that you want to click in, it's just super, it's super easy to keep stuff. There's nothing worse than driving a van and shit rattles around in the back. It makes me want to peel off my face and tear it into confetti, And then down here in this drawer is test meter, so just a normal 18th edition multifunction tester, label writer, and the drone. Now the drone, we keep that on this van all the time because again, it's doing survey work, stuff like that, where places we can't access where we want to access. that's what we use the drone for. Well, that's what we're going to be using it for. You have got to take a commercial operator's license, which I've done, which wasn't, was actually quite expensive to do that course. So yeah, it's the sort of thing, if you want to have a drone to do survey work, you have got to do the courses and all that stuff, but it does get quite expensive. So I think it was about £1,000. It was about £1,000. It might be cheaper now because I did it like 2 years ago. You can't actually see, but under there is the 18-volt Bosch light. Again, nighttime work, really, really good. So we keep that on the van now, full time. Telly steps, yeah. So we've got just a warning sign and some telly steps with this is actually the holder that Sortimo fitted. Again, it's the same with the Vice. You don't use them all the time, but the days you do use them, they'll get you out of a pickle you wouldn't have been able to get out of otherwise. So that's the reason we keep them on here. Now, over here, this side, we've got the workbench, a metre-wide workbench. I wanted to have a workbench in here because I just thought it's the sort of vehicle where if we're going to be inside, especially if it's pouring down with rain and we're working on the side of the road or something, I wanted somewhere that we can just come in out the rain. If we need to do something, we need to work on something, repair something, you've got a clear space. Nothing worse than not having space, especially if it's raining outside or something. You can have somewhere dry and warm that you can still work and carry on working. So that's the reason I wanted this workbench. Hot water hand wash unit, all the vans have got these. When I was speaking to Sortimo, they were saying they're a very love-hate thing. Some companies love them and every single van in their fleet's got them. Other companies don't want to know. I personally think they're brilliant and I have them, every single van's got them, except the electric Kangoo. All the others have got them because I just think it's so nice to finish a job and then just wash your hands afterwards with hot water. It's really nice. Also good for cleaning small parts and stuff as well. Deb soap dispenser, blue roll, well, green roll. First aid kit up there, that was a requirement. We had to carry one of those. Now down here, this is just all of the stuff that we're constantly in and out of all day, every day. So electric gloves, you've seen those, I think that was in the content last week actually, or one of the videos recently. Electric gloves, ear defenders, proving units, lockout kits, torque screwdriver set, very important, and saber spray. We were doing a job on an industrial unit a couple of weeks ago and it was really high level smoke detectors, and of course, so this goes hand in hand. So we keep this sort of stuff as well because it's great for testing smoke alarms and that sort of stuff. Electrical tape, duct tape, you never know. Cable ties, copper grease, brake cleaner, always handy. You never know where you want to clean stuff off. Now you'll notice we don't carry any twin and earth on this van. That's just purely because we don't plan on doing any domestic work in this van, so we don't carry any drums of T&E at all. All we're going to be carrying is singles because most of the work that this will be doing is, again, it's access work. It'll be doing runs of steel pipe, galvanized conduit and stuff up the side of buildings. It's going to be doing that sort of stuff. So with galv pipe, obviously singles is going to be what you're going to want to use. So we just keep a little selection of that on the van. But again, I'm only keeping a little selection because this vehicle is going to be used for pre-booked in work. So we're going to know what the work is, and on the day of the job, we carry what we need. So you see in the warehouse and the boxes. So I keep a little stock, but that's it, because just in case you get caught short and you need a bit of extra stock. The pull-out seat, you've seen that in a couple of videos now. I absolutely love those things, they're brilliant. So we keep that on the van. And the bottom drawer is the Cobalt Bosch hole saws. Again, you've seen those in content, I think they're brilliant. HSS bits, high-speed steel bits, and just other bits and pieces. These are just SDS bits. Well, they were all neatly in there. SDS bits, you never know when you're going to need a selection of bits. Always handy to have. And the other box is just the longer SDS bits, because always handy, especially if you're up high, you've got to drill a hole through a wall or something. Handy just to keep them on the van. And then in this corner here, again, this was a bit of a difficult corner because you've got the boom in the way. So all we did was just, well, all Sortimo did was just put a Pro Click holder here, just for my bag. Again, I wanted to have the bag here just next to the workbench, easy to work, nice and quick. Pull out drawers. So this one carries all our PPE. So this is all orange stuff for rail, yellow stuff for highways. So just a selection of trousers, jackets, all that sort of stuff. Bottom one, haven't really put anything in that one yet. It's just all of our ratchets, tie down stuff in there. Up here is our harnesses. So we've got a pair of harnesses which we keep on the van all the time. It is easier just to drop them in the top of the tray, but I want to keep them in the bag because A, they're bloody expensive to replace, and B, it just gives you a bit of peace of mind. You know they're always protected. It's easy to have a Stanley knife slip out and cut it or something, so it's just nice to keep them in the bag, and I keep them up there out the way. Down here you can't really see, but this is where we keep the lids. So I keep a pair of those lids, the Delta Plus lids. Those are the ones you saw in the contents, the ones that I was saying sit about 4 inches above your head. Again, we needed those because they've got the drop-down visor, which was a requirement for highways work. 2 of those, bloody expensive actually. They're about 90 quid each, so they're really expensive. I did wince when I was paying for those. And then down there in that corner is the rods which we carry. You never know when you're going to use rods. Coat hook for our coats, and then the waste container for the hand wash unit. I did ask Sortimo, can't we just have that and we just drain it out under the van? You just cut a hole through and it just drains out. But apparently there's a bit of noise from the eco-mentalists about how environmentally safe that is. But the Deb soap dispenser is all environmentally friendly soap, so I don't really see the issue. But apparently there was a bit of noise about it, so that's why they have to drain it into a waste container. This box, I took the liberty of opening it just to have a look. Oh, what's the electrics in the boom like? Yeah, that is a fat load of electrics. It's very neat, very impressive, whoever did it, and that's... I'd have to do a bit of training to learn what all of that means. I think actually the people who do this is all they do. They just do this one job day in, day out, and they just know it like the back of their, they know it like the back of their hand. But yeah, quite a lot, quite busy in there. Only other thing was the switch which does the loading space lights. The only thing I do want to do though is put, same as I've done on the other vans, so I'll hook that up to an LED bar on the roof. So that's, I haven't done that yet, but that's the only other thing I want to do. So that will just activate the roof lights when I do get around to fitting them. And then just lastly, the red book, which you've seen that in previous content, and then all the highways manuals, working with D&O equipment, all that sort of stuff just goes in there. This area here was a bit of a sticking point. I wasn't really sure what to do back here because I want to try and utilize as much space on this vehicle as possible. So we just put the utility barrier there, which I actually want to get another one because really we should be carrying 2. So I need to get another one there, and it's just a ratchet strap which holds it in. You've then got the what do you call these yellow things? Wheel chocks. Got a pair of wheel chocks. We don't really use those in day-to-day stuff. The only time we'd ever really use those is if you're on an incline and you just want to give a bit of extra support to the rear wheels. But to be honest with you, if you're on a bit of an incline, as soon as you put the jacks down, that's going to give you all the support you need. So I fitted them, but I think the reality is we're probably not, the only time we'd ever really use those is if we're on an incline, but we're not using the boom because it is a heavy bit of kit. And then lastly is the spreader plates. That was a requirement, we had to have those, and I just keep those on the back of the van here, and it's just a padlock to unlock them. And you've seen these in content where we take them out and we put them under the spreader where we put them under the jacks on the sides of the van. And then up there is 2 LED work lights. Sortimo fitted those very kindly, and you've seen the switch above the dash. That was where they're switched from. That's what switches on. I like the idea of just illuminating this space at the back if we're working at night or doing street works overnight or something. I just like illumination. Now, the bucket itself. Now, I had the option when you order this from the manufacturer, they tell you, look, this is the van you're buying, here's the options list of all the things that we can offer you. And you literally just go through the list and you just tick all of the optional extras. So it comes with a 1-man bucket as standard. I had a 2-man bucket because I think it was about 1,000, I think from memory, don't hold me, it was like £1,000 upgrade to have a 2-man bucket. And the reason I had that is because I can see if I had a 1-man bucket, there are going to be occasions where you're just going to need 2 people and you haven't got the facility. So for the sake of for the sake of £1,000, for the amount of investment this has cost, just fit a 2-man bucket, and then you've got the best of both worlds if you ever need it. One useful tip I did learn from another company actually who run MUPs. They were saying when you park in car parks or if you're working, if you stop in anywhere, let's say you stop somewhere to go and grab a coffee, park with the bucket facing a solid object. I didn't really I've never thought about this until they said it. They said park with the bucket facing a solid wall or a lamppost, something solid. If someone reverses into the front of the van, it's cheaper to replace a bumper than it is to replace a bucket substantially, because to put a new bucket on this is like 3,000–4,000 quid. It's really expensive. So it's much cheaper. Park this against something solid, and if the front of the van gets damaged, it's cheaper to replace that than the bucket. So, little tip if you're ever running MUPs, apparently that's good practice. The back's been cut away, as you see. All of the lights is all fitted from the manufacturer. These were optional upgrades. It comes as a standard vehicle, and if you want the safety lights and stuff, you just add those on. So I think these ones here to have these ones, and you've got two on the side there, and these ones, I think it was like 250 quid. So it was like, it's much cheaper just to get the manufacturer to do it than me mess around trying to do it myself. So we had those fitted. The only other options I had fitted was the 110 volt socket in the basket. I don't plan on using 110. The reason I had that is because I wanted the extra wire to be running to the boom, because what I'm going to do, I'll take this off and I'll put a 24 volt, I'm going to put a 12 volt pack here, and it'll just basically have USB sockets, and I can just charge stuff. You can get 12 volt chargers for the Bosch stuff, so I can just, it makes more sense to take this off. Do you know what I mean? I can put a 12 volt pack there, I can run LED lighting, I can run USB stuff. Just gives me a bit of flexibility when you're up in the basket. So in the basket itself, this had the option of what was called green pack technology. Now, I didn't go ahead with it, but looking back at it, I kind of wish I did. What that basically does is when you're parked inside something like an industrial unit or something, you're working inside, it means you can switch the engine off, and you basically have, it's a big battery bank basically, which powers the boom. So it just means that you can work in enclosed areas without running the engine, because obviously you're going to intoxicate everybody with CO2. So it was, the only reason I didn't do it really is because it was a £3,000 upgrade. It was really, I couldn't justify it. But there's ways of getting around it. You've got the stop start from the bucket. So when you get up to height, you just run the engine for a little bit. When you get up to height, you can just turn the engine off. So it's only that period where you're actually using the boom. So yeah, looking back at it, I probably should have done it, but it was just financially I had to. The problem is with these things, you've got to draw the line somewhere, because you literally can just keep spending money, and before you know it, honestly, you're at 100 grand. Because this van was the diesel version, but they offered this as the Renault Master ZE. They can do this, they can mount all of this on the electric version of the Renault Master. But that one, I got a price on that, and that was about 120 grand. It was really, you know, when you think this was 75 and that an electric one was 120, I just couldn't, I had to draw the line somewhere. So I kept that's why I kept the diesel one. And also I'm not sure what the range would have been like on the electric one, to be honest, because from the factory, I've got a feeling the standard electric Renault Master does something like, I think it's like 130 mile range, but that's empty. And when you think this is going to be running at pretty much fully laden, you're probably going to be lucky if you get 50 miles out of it, 50, 60 absolute best. So that was the reason I went back to diesel. Right, that is basically it. That is the Renault Master Mupe. You're going to be seeing more of this in content coming up as soon as our highway work takes off. All we're waiting for is, I've basically just got there's one last piece of, one last exam I've got to sit. Once I've done that, we're on the road. So it's not far away now. So this will be coming up very regularly in content once we get the green light to go ahead. That's all we've got time for. If there's anything else you want us to see, if there's anything else you want us to do, drop it below. If there's content that you want us to see or do, chuck it below. We're totally open. I'll work with you guys, try and work out what it is you want to see more or less of. Otherwise, that's it. Please don't forget to drop a like and subscribe, because it really does make a big difference. Okay, please make sure to do it, because it does honestly help. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in a couple of days' time.